Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good evening everyone and good morning everyone. Welcome back to another Monday Sutta discussion. Today is day 96. It's been 96 days that we've been conducting this series of sutta discussions. The title of the talk tonight for our discussion is pretty interesting. Overcome insecurity and regain your self-esteem. So it's about how we can overcome our insecurities and then how we can regain, how we can replace our insecurities with self-esteem, confidence, so all the good positive words. So we have two Pali words. I understand insecurity with the Pali word called Sārajja, while I understand self-esteem or self-confidence with the word called vesārajjaṃ, because these two words are mentioned in this sutta called Sārajja Sutta, which I want to talk about for today's discussion. So this sutta appears in the 5th section of Anguttara Nikaya, I would say 5.101. So in this sutta, Buddha talks about how can one be insecure, and how can one be secure, or how can one have the assurance in terms of one's spiritual practice. So I plan to talk about this sutta with the translation, and then we'll go into the common topic called insecurity, how we get insecure, and then how we can regain our self-confidence or self-esteem. That's my plan for today. Stay tuned. Let me read the Pali Sutta first. Seka Sārajja Sutta. Panchime bhikkhave Seka vesārajya karana dhamma katame pancha. Monks, these 5 qualities make a trainee assured. Now this is one other word called esteem or confident. What 5? Katame pancha. Ida bhikkhave bhikkhu saddu hoti, sīlava hoti, bahussuto hoti, āraddha viriyo hoti, panyava hoti. It is when a mendicant or a monk or nun is faithful, ethical, learned, energetic, and wise. So faith, ethics, learning, energy, and wisdom. So these 5 help a monk or a nun or a spiritual practitioner very secure. So that's how one can be secure in terms of the spiritual practice. And then the Buddha goes on to explain this particular thing in little bit details. Yanko bhikkhave asaddhassa sārajjaṃ hoti, saddhassa taṃ sārajjaṃ na hoti. Tasmayang dhammo seka vesārajja karano. Now, before I jump into that part, I wanted to introduce you about who is a seeker. Now, seeker is a word that is given to someone who is on the path to Nibbana. In the Samgita Sutta of Digha Nikaya, Buddha points out there are 3 people in terms of the spiritual practice. The first person is called seeker. Seeker is a learner, someone who is learning to attain Nibbana. There are 7 types of learners. The one who is called who is working on the path to become a Sotapanna, the one who is on the fruit of the Sotapanna, one who is on the path to Sakadagami, fruit with Sakadagami, and path and fruit of Anagami, and path to Arahanthood. So these are the 7 people, 7 practitioners we understand by seeker. Aseka is another term, another kind of people. They are called as arahants. So they have finish their journey. They don't need to be disciplined anymore. So Seka, in other words, call someone who needs to be disciplined. Aseka means someone who doesn't need to be disciplined. And the third person in this spiritual path is Neva Seko, Na Seko. That means neither of them, neither of those two, an arahant or someone who is on the path to Nibbana. So who are they? They are ordinary people like us. Okay, so now the Buddha talks about the insecurity or security of a Seka. Seka means someone who is on the path to Nibbana. So that person must have these 5 saddha, faith or trust, sila, virtue or ethics, bahussutta, that means learning or well-readness, āraddha viriya, that means energy, paññava, that means pañña, wisdom. So these 5 are the things that make a spiritual practitioner, in this case a Seka, will put effort into his path to make that person, make him or her secure, okay, without being insecure. Let me read a little bit more. Yanko bhikkhave assaddassa sārajjaṃ hoti. Saddassa taṃ sārajjaṃ na hoti. Tasmāya dhammo seka vesārajya karno. Now, sārajya means insecurity, and vesārajya means security or assurance. So a person of saddha, of faith, doesn't have the insecurities of someone who lacks faith, saddha. So this quality makes a trainee secure or assured. In the same way, an ethical person doesn't have the insecurities of someone who is unethical. Someone who has sila already, who has virtue with that person, doesn't need to be uncomfortable with that practice, because that person is already secure. No need to be insecure. In the same way, a learned person doesn't have the insecurities of a person of little learning. So this quality makes a trainee assured. Someone who has who doesn't have this little learning, who is well read, who is knowledgeable, doesn't need to be worried about any insecurities, because that person already has the learning part. An energetic person doesn't have the insecurities of a lazy person, so this quality makes a trainee assured. That means someone who has energy in his path to spirituality, that person doesn't have this insecurity called witless, I would say laziness. So that person is on the path to laziness, on the path to Nibbana, because that person is already energetic. A wise person who doesn't have this insecurity of unwisdom or ignorance, doesn't need to be worried about any insecurity, because she is already secure, because she has this security, or what you call by wisdom. So there are 5 insecurities and there are 5 securities. So 5 securities are faith, saddha, in other words we call it trust. Sila means ethics or virtues. Bahussutta means being learned. And āraddha viriya means energetic. Paññava means wisdom. So if someone has these 5, that particular person has securities, 5 securities. Someone who doesn't have these 5, has all these insecurities, the opposite side of these 5. That means what are the insecurities in this case? Lack of trust, lack of virtues, lack of learning, lack of energy, and lack of wisdom. So it's pretty dangerous in terms of securities and insecurities. Okay, now let me talk about insecurities. So this is a very interesting topic for all of us, because I think this is really relevant to all of us in many terms. Now, we all have kind of, insecurities, more or less. The only difference is someone can overcome, or someone can deal with it, someone can, right? Someone may work with it or overcome it, in a certain way, but not able to overcome it at all times. So how does this happen? What are the insecurities that we are struggling with, we are dealing with all the time? So first, we have to take a look at of how this insecurity thing arises in us. We know we self-doubt about us. Now, we have fears, we have, past incidents that are, always processing in our mind. Then what happens? These things that happen in the past, they reflect in us in the form of fears, rejections, and all that. So they are kind of things that tell us that you are failed, you are rejected, you are denied, you should be like this and that. So in my understanding, I always tell this inner critic, I call this particular motive or emotion as being the inner critic. This inner critic is making a shop in our brain, and then this inner critic sells his garbage to us, and we automatically subscribe to it. So our inner critic, wherein which we try to, inner critic is good sometimes, because inner critic tries to help us, but the problem is it helps us with some cost, right? It is trying to help us with a cost. So you have to understand this inner critic is something like a shop that is created inside our brain, and then what happens is that we are subscribing to all the activities, responses of this shop. So that's why we have to understand, we have to make it, we have to transform this shop into a better place, so that whenever insecurities arise, we know what to do. Now, if we do not understand what to do, then what will happen? They badly affect our perceptions, right? So these perceptions will create us a very traumatic, catastrophic situation. It is like, throwing gasoline on a fire. Whenever past events, rejections come to us in the form of insecurity, we never know what's going to happen. So it's like throwing gasoline on a fire. So we have to understand, because of this, we have to understand insecurity inducing factors. So these are the things that we're going to be talking today. There are three main reasons, causes for our insecurity. And I will be telling you there are some easy steps to do, and then you will be able to put them into practice with a commitment. So we need commitment with some effort. And also you need to understand that you may be always struggling, suffering with insecurities. So I have this issue, I have this issue. We're going to look at what those issues are. But please keep in mind that even though you try to evade, you try to run away from these insecurities on the surface level, the most important thing to understand is that there is a safe place for you. The safe place for you in terms of insecurities is your inside. Because your inside is the only place that you can consider as the safest place. But the problem is your inner strength may be hidden inside of that inside. So that's what we're gonna try to invigorate. We're gonna try to awaken, rekindle, because your insecurities arise time to time, and you never know where to start this journey of trying to regain your self-esteem, because the opposite of insecurity is self-esteem or self-confidence. But the good thing is that your inner strength to overcome your all insecurities is hidden inside that space. So that's what we are trying to awaken, that place, so that you are better able to understand what your insecurities are, and then you try to overcome them in easy steps. Now, the first thing I want to tell you is that we need to encounter our insecurities. A lot of people, they don't want to meet their insecurities. This is a big problem, because I feel like if you are trying to go away from your insecurities, you are having a really hard time in overcoming them. Now, you also need to understand that you can be really, emotional when it comes to insecurities, because look at these insecurities that I want to share with you. Now, what are the normal generic insecurities a lot of people are struggling? Number one, these are a couple insecurities that I understand. We worry what other people think about us. So this is one of the main insecurity. So we really worry what other people think about us. Also, we worry about we worry whether we are whether we are good enough in terms of looks actually to others. We may also worry about our characters, temperaments. What if people find out we are a fraud, we are bad people, if you are bad. We might worry whether we are too fat or not, about physical appearances. Somebody might worry, or somebody might have insecurities about whether somebody else likes someone else other than that person, right? Vice versa. We might have insecurities also about approval from other people in terms of social media. Okay, how many people like my posts? How many people like my tweets? How many people like my YouTube posts, videos? How many people share such things? So we are always struggling with these insecurities. So if we do not encounter them, if we do not see them, if we do not look at them, we will never be able to overcome these insecurities. So the first thing is that we need to face them. We need to see what insecurities we are having. So that's the first thing we must do. There are three main causes for our insecurities. Number one, insecurity based on recent failures. Now, this is, in my understanding, I would say it as, insecurity regarding rejection. Now, who was not rejected? Now, if you talk to yourself calmly, you might understand that everybody must have been rejected at a certain point, right? We know that the popular, U.S. president called Abraham Lincoln, he lost his job. He was defeated for nomination to Congress, and he failed at least twice in his Senate bids, right? But eventually he became the president. He overcame all that, right? So failure, rejection, failure is a point for us to better perform with the same thing. But we think every time we fail, this will be our end. I also found out that there is a saying that up to 40% of our happiness quotient is based on recent life event. That means whatever things happen in the recent time, they affect us. Especially 40% of our happiness come from that place. So recent events. So if you were recently rejected with a job, with a position, from somewhere, so that seems to have played a lot in your life, because 40% of your happiness come from recent events. You might perhaps worry about, especially relationship things like ending a relationship, death of a spouse, being jobless, negative health events. These are the things that might come inside of this, what you call, recent events that you might call failure or rejection. But if you do not encounter this insecurity, which comes in the form of rejection, what can happen is that it can deliver a double whammy to your confidence, right? You don't need to make it double, right? You need to, you are happy to, reduce the amounts of your insecurity. So what we have to understand is that failure is a place for us to grow. It is not a place for us to stop continuing. It is not a place for us to end up. It is a place for us to wake up. It is a place for us to continue the path, because I know the famous writer, what was her name? The famous writer who wrote this Harry Potter, and she said, we need to fail to succeed, right? What a nice thing to learn, right? I'm not saying that we need to fail, but we may fail because not everything is under us. There, even how much you are trying, to succeed, there are a lot of things that are not in your hands, right? Let's say during this COVID time, you were happy to do a lot of things before planned, but nothing can work at this point. But there are other ways to work. Simply because you can't do that, there are other ways to work, right? So take failure as a place to continue and to differently look at your path to success. A lot of successful people, they failed. Even the Buddha, just take the example of the Buddha. Now, the Shakyamuni Buddha, he took 6 years of ascetic practices. If he had known that the ascetic practices would not help him to attain Nibbana, the Buddhahood, he would have dropped that practice. But he failed in those 6 years. But we don't take it as a problem. We don't take it as a kind of a low effort. No, he tried his best. So why don't we think about rejection not as an insecurity, but as a place to grow, evolve? Okay, I would like to give you a couple steps to overcome rejection-based insecurity. So if you are struggling with rejection-based insecurity, I will give you a couple steps to do. The first thing is give some time to heal, and you can turn to a new normal situation. Sometimes when you were rejected, you need to take some time. Now, let's say somebody passed away, someone who is very close to us. Even how much things you learn from somebody about life and impermanence, it will take some time for you to understand. Life is like this, life is uncertain. So it takes some time. Don't hurry up. Don't try to fill up your mind immediately. Take some time. So one of the first thing that I ask you, if you are suffering, if you are struggling with rejection-based insecurity, is to take some time. Number 2, I can tell you, is that, get out of your comfort zone and engage with life. I would say follow some other interests. Maybe you might be curious about other things, adventures, maybe other habits that you want to form, fresh habits. Try out some of these habits and try to see a different life after this rejection. And also, you can, reach out to your friends and families who really love you, no matter what, because their support is really important, right? Because if you were rejected from someone who you think that was not really into you, but these people, friends and families, they will never reject you. So be with them, try to be with them for distraction and comfort. Also, try to get some feedback from other people about the rejection, what happened. Maybe you may have a place to work on, right? Maybe there is something you need to work on, that rejection, right? So the other thing that I wanted to encourage you to, overcome this rejection-based insecurities to, keep moving, Don't get stuck. Don't be at a standstill. Keep moving until you get whatever you want happen, right? Your plans to come true. So that's your plan. So you need to move forward. Do not stop at one place just because somebody rejected you, right? So this applies to relationships, jobs, education, money, and everything. Nobody in this world, jumped successfully from one place to the other place easily. These areas, these events of life, they took time. All the people, powerful people, spiritual people, they took some time. And then, so the first insecurity that a lot of people are struggling is rejection. So I told you these tips to practice. Once again, I want to share with you. Give some time to heal. Number 2, get out and look at different ways to engage with your life because you may have other interests to follow. Number 3 is try to be with your beloved friends and families, your people who really love you, like you, because you will get a lot of validations from them. And also get some feedback if you think that you made a real mistake, real mistake. That's why you were rejected, so that you will know that you shouldn't make that happen again. And also try to continue. Do not discontinue your plan where you got rejected, because if you were rejected at one place, there will be another door for you to get in, right? So please stay faithful about, please be trustworthy about other doors for your future. So that's the first cause of insecurity, which means rejection-based insecurity. Number 2, lack of confidence. This is because of social anxiety. Now, where people get stuck about their, trust issues. Now, why we are struggling with trust? So I'm telling many people, the reason why you are struggling with this particular insecurity, trust issue, social anxiety, is that you have made irrational expectations. You haven't planned about these expectations, so they are irrational. So whenever you form irrational expectations, what happens is that those irrational expectations will become irrational beliefs. Then what happened? Nothing will work out. Then you don't want to show other people. You don't want to show to the world that you are failed, that you have a lot of flaws and shortcomings. Then you want to cover up all that, right? Which is pretty bad, right? So whenever you try to cover up your flaws and shortcomings, then what will happen? You will have 3 types of bad responses. I will tell you. Because you try to compensate by acting cocky and arrogant in social settings. Because you are flawed, you have a lot of shortcomings, but you don't accept. The problem is that you made irrational expectations, which in turn became irrational belief. So when you are stuck like that, this is how you're gonna normally respond. You can be excessively comparative. This is one thing. A lot of people, because of this insecurity, because of this social anxiety, they become excessively comparative. They don't know why I'm comparative. They try to be very comparative, try to emulate other people. There's no reason to be emulative, but try to unnecessarily be comparative, right? Or you may be incredibly selfish. So there are 3 types of responses whenever you do not accept that you made irrational expectations or irrational belief, which in turn goes to happen. one response that you will make is that you will be excessively competitive. Number two, if not, you will be incredibly selfish, too selfish. Or you may be overly critical of other people. You will pick on everything of other people. Even somebody tells someone to you, or someone to you, you will take it in the way that that person told you, that person insinuated to you, right? So you kind of like, you act out to hide your problem, because you don't accept your problem, because you created what you call irrational expectations, so that you are now struggling. So what I understand is that these behaviors, especially now those behaviors whereby you are making yourself to a certain area in your life to be excessively competitive, or incredibly selfish, or try to be overly critical of other people. If we take a look at these three ways of your behavior, what I understand is that this is not real you. But you think you need to act out, because you need to hide. You need to show the world that you haven't made a mistake. You don't have flaws and shortcomings. So you are trying to act out. But please keep in mind, inside you are desperately crying out for help. Inside of you, you are desperately crying out for help, but you don't know what to do. It's pretty sad. You need help, but you don't accept your insecurity about trust, social anxiety. So I will tell you a couple things. If you are struggling with this social anxiety, this is one of the biggest insecurity. Now, how can we see, in addition to these internal issues, like that you are having this, lack of confidence-based insecurity, that you lack in confidence, especially in social settings. So you don't know what to do. You think that you are lower than other people who are out there. So you always try to, you always think that you have this inferiority complex, so that you try to act out. You try to be overly critical of other people. You try to be excessively, competitive. You try to incredibly selfish. So I will tell you what you could do. Number one, you can talk to that inner critic. So what is inner critic like? I told you, inner critic is a shop that you create inside of your brain. So in this shop, we have a lot of rubbish. So every time when this inner critic forms rubbish or garbage, we are subscribing to this shop. Inner critic is creating this rubbish or garbage for the sake of our well-being. But the problem is, it comes with a cost, right? So we have to kind of silence this inner critic in a better way. But what you could do in terms of this lack of confidence based insecurity is that you can talk to your inner, you can see what's going on with your inner critic. Also, if you think that you can't handle social settings, let's say if you go out, if you are supposed to go somewhere, you can avoid those social setups until you get better, right? Until you take time and get better with your insecurity. Also, you can deliberately focus on others, like being compassionate to others, trying to give a help to someone. Then you don't have a lot of time to think about your shortcomings and your things. I mean, while you are trying to treat you in terms of understanding your irrational manifestations, irrational expectations. So there are things like that you can do to, overcome this lack of confidence thing. So I also urge you to, make rational expectations. So whenever you make rational expectations, you will never get stuck. Now, these rational expectations, arise as a result of being into vipassana. When you see things as they are, then you are trying to be very objective, so that you will be able to, make rational expectations. So those rational expectations will create rational belief. That means they are pretty much objective. You will never make shortcomings, and you will never be flawed, right? So that's something about your subjective understanding versus objective understanding. Try to be objective about your plans. Try to be objective about your work. Try to be objective about your relationships and your friends, families, and everything, so that you will not be into irrational expectations. Thereby you will get stuck. Your self-confidence will get stuck, so that you will be very insecure. Third reason that I understand about insecurity is perfectionism. This is a big problem. Now, one of the biggest issue in today's world is social media. Now, on social media platforms, we see there are people who can do better than us, who can be happier, who can be more skilled, who can be more beautiful, prettier, more handsome, more growing, and all the good stuff. Because we see these people, what we see on social media, what we see on internet, that can drive us to a sort of perfectionism, right? Even during this COVID time. But we have to do certain things to overcome this particular insecurity that arises, that comes out as a result of perfectionism. What we could do to overcome this particular insecurity called perfectionism. I always tell people, we are perfectly imperfect. While you see in society people ask you to be perfect, but we are perfectly imperfect. But it doesn't mean that we should not do better. We should do the best we can. But in case we fail, it's okay. Because either if we want to try or we don't want to try, right? But simply because someone fails, someone is not ending one's life. Someone is not ending one's career. Someone is not ending relationship, right? That person may be trying again, trying to be resilient, trying to bounce back. So we should allow that to happen. Now, in terms of, or when we talk about perfectionism, what are the things that we see in the society? Highest grades, the best job, the perfect figure, the most beautifully decorated apartment or house, neat and polite kids, those who have some issues with their kids, children, the ideal partner. So all these are actually, revolve around perfectionism, right? How can I get the ideal partner? How can I get neat and polite kids? How can I get a decent, nice, beautifully decorated apartment house? How can I get a perfect body, perfect figure? How can I get the best job for my education? How can I get the highest grades for my studies or whatever other things? Now, all these are perfectionist things. Should we all try for all these? No, we should try in our own capacity. We might fail. But if you make rational expectations, you will never end up with this kind of a thought, because you know that this is what you want. You are trying decently, and then you will get there. In case it doesn't happen, you don't worry about it, because you know we can fail. Those of them who don't believe in failures and also resilience, they will be stuck. They will be into perfectionism. Now we know that sadly, unfortunately, life does not turn out exactly the way we want, even if we work very hard, right? So there are other things involved. Why not? Now, just look at some of the things that are out of our control. About our work life, your boss. This boss may be very critical to you, You can't make him back to the place that you want to be. And the job security, right? Nowadays, during the COVID time, no one's job is secure, right? And about your partners. Sometimes your partners may not commit, right? You might try your best, but at the end it might not work, right? Maybe you and other people may have some genes that make, both of you to be difficult to be, succeed in terms of your body, right? I know there are genes that some people have. Because of those genes, they can get their perfect bodies. So all these things are out of our control. That's why I'm telling you, you won't be able to go into that perfectionist thing, right? But it doesn't look harm that if you give a try recently. But perfectionism as a whole is a troubling thing. I think it's really, really unhealthy type of thinking, because it will put us down. It will definitely pressurize us, so that we need to overcome this perfectionist thinking. What can we do? I mean, we also know that when you are really into perfectionism, if you are a perfectionist, it can lead to really bad mental issues, depression, anxiety, eating disorders. You may not eat properly, and chronic fatigue, right? All these come out of perfectionist thinking. That's why when you take care of your kids, when you educate your kids, you should tell them about failures too. You always talk about the price of your money. You are working hard to give them education, but in case they fail, you don't know how to approach them. They don't know how to approach you, because you ask them to, hey, live up to our expectations, right? It's a pretty big problem. In case they fail, if you had told them, kids, in life, people may succeed, people may not succeed, but that's not the end of life. There's something else we could do. So then they will understand, okay, failures are a part of success, and it's not something really new to all of us, right? So we have to educate everybody that failure is a normal, simple thing, because sometimes you will fail, and then you will achieve something bigger than, that goal, right? Maybe you will fail for a reason, right? There are things like that. Okay, what we could do to overcome this insecurity, which appears in terms of perfectionist-based insecurity. If you are struggling with perfectionism, now these are the things you could do. Okay, one thing you could do is that you can evaluate yourself based on how much effort you put in, right? Rather than the outcome. The outcome is fail, but you can evaluate yourself. Now, take for instance, your kid may be trying his or her best to getting somewhere in his or her career, education. But in case she failed, you're gonna tell him, or kid, you did your best, right? Look at how much strength, how much effort you put into this particular endeavor. Don't think about what happened, right? You can evaluate yourself for what you invested, not what you got, right? Put your energy on the evaluation about what you did to become, not the outcome. If you are struggling with this for perfectionist type of insecurity. Number two, you could also think about how much difference it would actually make if your work were 10% better. There are some, kind of like guesses people can make, right? What if I could have, what if I had done this little better? So I could have, turned this to a different level, right? So kind of like thinking, right? Giving you some hope to do it better, do it again, right? Do better. Also, we know that the people who are really into perfectionist understanding, they often based on all or nothing thinking. How can I say that? Now, they try to always find the black and white type of thinking. They don't like to see the gray areas, right? Now, every effort, every endeavor involves gray areas. So we have to see the both, not nothing and not either nothing or best. We have to see the gray area. So why don't we try to be a little bit compassionate, to understand a certain situation, right? Nowadays we know everybody is trying to pick on different people for COVID-19, right? And even in a situation, we try to pick on someone. Okay, you are responsible for this issue. You are the one who did this, behind all this. But why don't we try to be a little compassionate about even? Oh, maybe, he or she was not responsible for this thing. Maybe something else. If you really look at the bigger picture, if you can zoom out, you will understand you don't need to put blame on someone, because you're trying to see the bigger picture of that particular event with some compassion, right? So you can give some compassionate thinking about that particular event rather than looking at or picking on someone about responsibility, so that you will change your perfectionist insecurity to a different, better level. Last thing I wanted to add onto this perfectionist-based insecurity is that perfectionists have conditional self-esteem. Why do I say so? They like themselves when they are on top and dislike themselves when they don't go their way, right? When they are on the top, they like them. When they are not on the top, then they dislike themselves. So this is like a conditional type of self-esteem. And why do we disturb our self-esteem in the way that how we perform, right? Can we learn to like ourselves even when we are not doing well? I mean, we may not do well at all times. Let's say you are not fit, at that time. Maybe you were sick at that time. You were distracted at that time. So why don't we try to, like us even when we were doing, bad in any particular activity? So that's a good way of looking at this conditional self-esteem, the opposite of insecurity. We should be able to like us at all times. We should not like us only when we're doing better, or when we dislike when we are not doing bad. We should be able to like us at both times to see where my self-esteem lies, where my this opposite of what you call insecurity lies. That is where I can make myself a better person. So basically, we have to focus on inner qualities like character, sincerity, good values, rather than what grades I was able to get, how much I get paid, and how many people like me. So all these are actually really taking you to a catastrophic, really bad mentality, right? So you should be able to like you at all times, whenever you do good, whenever you do bad, but also at the same time you should look into why you didn't do well, right? In a very comfortable, compassionate way. Okay, so there are three main causes for insecurities. Once again, I wanted to reiterate those three. The first is insecurity based on rejection. Second is insecurity based on lack of confidence. Third is insecurity based on perfectionism. So I also encourage you to do different steps to overcome these three. We should be able to overcome failures, because I already told you failure should be a normal thing in our life. It is not a new thing. Even the Buddha failed for 6 years, right? So why don't we? But failure is not the big thing. What we do with the failure is the big thing, is the most important thing. Failure is a normal thing. And lack of confidence, I ask you to make rational expectations. without making irrational expectations. Rational expectations will create you into a place where you will further boost your trust. In terms of perfectionism based insecurity, I told you to like you at all times. Whenever you do well, whenever you fail, you should be able to like you. The most important thing is not to do the best, to do better. In case you fail, it's okay, because we should not evaluate anyone on how much money that person has and how much he get paid, and we should not evaluate someone based on how many likes, how many shares he or she get, right? All that. So we have to evaluate everyone based on this non-perfectionism understanding, because nobody is perfect. We are perfectly imperfect. So if you are struggling with these three, there are these steps you can practice. And finally, I wanted to add you few more steps that you could do. These are very mind-boggling. Please pay more attention to these steps. Before I talk about the other steps, you should understand that none of these steps will work for you if you do not try to commit to putting aside bad habits and then put in effort and energy into this practice. It should be a consistent practice, right? If you, let's say you do these couple of these practices today, steps today, but you won't do it tomorrow, and you won't be able to succeed growing in combating insecurity. Number one, identify your insecurities. You can ask from yourself, what is the root cause of my insecurity? Let's say I'm having an insecurity based on my something about my body image awareness, or my education, money, anything. Then I had to look at what is the root cause of this insecurity. That's one way. Also, you can also do something like ask a question this way: what underlying irrational beliefs are at the core of these past memories? So why this started? Let's say you were rejected, but you don't look at why you were rejected, and then you start resenting about someone who rejected you, something that rejected you, right? So you need to peel back the layers of insecurity. That's why you have to identify your insecurities. Without identifying, you will not get anywhere. First is identify your insecurities, because accepting that everything is subjective is the most important thing, because all the contents of your insecurities, they are subjective, they are not objective, because insecurities will never come from an objective understanding. They all are subjective. So number one is you identify your insecurities based on how why and all these perspectives of your insecurity. Number two, practice being objective. If you are really making rational expectation, then you will never get stuck with an insecurity, because your expectations are really real and objective, right? But let's say you have insecurities, then you can start being more objective, going out of being subjective. How could you do that? You can take a look at is my insecurity objective or subjective, right? You can also question the validity of your experience of this insecurity. You can sort of like question about validity. Is my experience with this particular insecurity something that I should validate or not? You're looking at your experience about being objective or subjective. That's number two. Number three, reflect more on your accomplishment and success side, not failures. You also need to look at your failure, but put more energy on success or accomplishment side. Now, a lot of people, when they want to even solve a question, a problem, they put more energy on the problem. They should put more energy on solution, right? Because our main more energy should direct onto solution, not the problem, right? But we also need to put some energy on the problem, but more energy towards the solution, because everyone is expecting a solution. In the same way, reflect on the success or accomplishment side, not the failure side that much. Number 4, assess your circumstances. Okay, now you can also assess your circumstances. What if I didn't do this thing that way? You can sort of look at the worst case scenario. Maybe you had a failure, but when you reflect on the particular failure, you may understand, oh, it is good it happened. if it didn't happen, I don't know where I could have ended up. It is good that it happened. Some people, look that way. So when you assess your circumstances about your failure, you feel good about it. So you will be able to overcome that insecurity very, very fast. Number 5, you can engage in a positive self-talk. Now, oftentimes people engage in a negative self-talk. Always they're talking to that inner critic, or they are handled by the inner critic. They are blaming yourself. Why did you do that? Why did you should sabotage yourself. You should punish yourself. But if you are someone who understands how to overcome your insecurities, you are trying to have a positive self-talk. This happened. I know it happened. It happened for different reasons, but now I'm trying to bounce back. I'm trying to be resilient. I don't want to go back. So you're trying to have a positive self-talk. You're trying to talk to you in a positive way. Let's say you had a bad partner, and the partner left you. Now you are understanding what happened. It's good that I got out of this issue. You're trying to be safe now. You feel safe now, right? And you are trying to have a a positive talk. So this positive talk is very interesting and important to get out of, insecurities. How could you do that? Actually, if I can detail more, you could think this way: I am confident and a capable person. So you are trying to tell you, I believe I can do this. I will take one small action to get the ball rolling. I will learn from my mistakes and keep moving forward without hesitation. A few weeks ago, I interviewed in my Dhammaparisana series a friend of mine in Thailand, Menada, and she was explaining to me that other people can call her a loser, but she doesn't care it. If I know I'm a loser, I know what to do next. So I really like that idea, If you accept, because other people can call you a loser, but you don't call you are a loser. So because you are trying to give you positive talk. Number 6, make a full commitment. You need to make a full commitment to overcome your insecurity. If you just even know what I'm telling you, it won't help you if you don't put into practice with a commitment. This commitment should be a full-blown commitment. A full-blown commitment. Day and night. 24/7, 365 kind of a commitment you have to do. So this way, you're going to tame your critic. At the same time, you will be able to overcome your insecurities, which come in different forms, and you regain your self-esteem, because the opposite of insecurity is self-esteem. You are boosting your self-esteem, or what you call by self-confidence. So the Buddha asked monks, practitioners to improve more securities so that you won't be into insecurity. So in the same way, in our life, we should not let our past, our rejections, our confidence issues, perfectionist problem make us into an insecurity. We should be able to take back the power of us, to power up us, boost our energy, boost our self-confidence, boost our self-esteem, and to stay free, break free from all the insecurities. So that's the plan that I, attempted to tell you today. Once again, I want to tell you these couple steps, one more time. Identify your insecurities. Number 1. I mean, in addition to those three, the rejection-based insecurity, lack of confidence-based insecurity, and perfectionist-based insecurity. And I was talking about different steps inside of those three. In addition to those three, and the kind of like, I think I talked about a couple, I guess, 10 to 15, inside steps to overcome those three insecurities. But here, this is kind of a generic overview, kind of a general steps to overcome insecurities. Number one, identify your insecurities. Number two, practice being objective rather than being subjective. Number three, reflect on your success or accomplishment, not about the failures more, because you can also think about failure, why it happened, but you put your energy more on the success and accomplishments. Number four, assess your circumstances. Be happy that happened. Sometimes it happened for a good reason. Number five, engage in a positive self-talk, not with a negative self-talk. Number six, make a full-blown commitment. Don't just do it one day and then stop it and then do next month, because this is a mental process. At the same time, it should be a full-blown process. So have the commitment in action all the time with courage and effort. Okay. So that's what we've been talking today. You need to overcome all your insecurities. At the same time, you should be able to regain your self-esteem. That's what the Buddha said also in this sutta. Okay, let's share all the good karmas with the deities and departed individuals, relatives. May all the good karmas we've been acquiring in all these ways be shared by all the departed relatives who passed away in the name of all of us. May they be happy and peaceful. May they attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Idam me ñāti nang hotu sukhita huntu ñātayu. Idam me ñāti nang hotu sukhita huntu ñātayu. Idam me ñāti nang hotu sukhita huntu ñātayu. We need to share all the good karmas with the deities, devas. May all the deities share in all these good karmas. May they be happy and peaceful. May they protect all of you. May they also attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Ittavatacha ammehi sambatang punya sampadang. Sabbe deva anumodantu, sabbe bhuta anumodantu, sabbe satta anumodantu, sabba sampatti sindhya. Akasattha cha bummattha deva naga mahintika. Punyantang anumoditva chirang rakkantu lokasasanang. Chirang rakkantu desanang, chirang rakkantu mang paranti. Finally, let's make a great wish. May all the good karmas we've been accumulating in all these ways be helpful for all of us to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. We need a lot of commitment to attain Nibbana. You can't attain Nibbana just by listening to one Dhamma talk. You have to stay consistent. You have to practice, keep practicing, like how you do with your insecurities. May all these good karmas be helpful for all of us to attain the supreme bliss of Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Now I'm going to be blessing you with a couple more stanzas. Please receive the blessings. Abhivadana silisse nichang vadha pachayino chattaro dhamma vadhanti ayuvanno sukhang balang ayura rogya sampatti sagga sampatti mevacha ato nibbana sampatti iminati saminjatu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, so please continue to stay tuned with our interviews, discussions, talk shows that I conduct time to time with the guest. Try to bring a lot of guests about different topics: spirituality, Buddhism, life perspectives, ethics, meditation, compassion. Hopefully that they can add different flavors to Padisota, so that you will learn a lot of Dhamma as well as life. So that's our plan. So please stay tuned with all that. Also, please continue to take care of yourself. COVID-19 has not been ended. So we have to take care of us, and have a good evening, have a good day. Take care.